Good morning. If you're here for the coffee talks, you're at the right place. We are going to give folks that may be having difficulties getting in an opportunity to resolve their issues. In the meantime, if you'd like to grab a beverage or something to eat real quick, go ahead and do so, and we'll see you at 9:02 to start this. Good morning, Minnesota. Welcome to the April edition of the SSIS Admin Part 2 Coffee Talk. I am Ross Stack. I will be your host today. I'm an e-learning instructional designer with the Learning and Development arm of the SSIS user support team. We'll get started today with the agenda. We'll do welcome and introductions, which I just did the welcome, and introductions will happen as each presenter begins their presentation. They'll introduce themselves so you'll know who is presenting. We'll go over some housekeeping. We'll go through the Tennyson warning because we are recording this. Mentor of the month, and we'll get into the SSIS administration topics, including county preferences, destruction list, healthcare revenue account codes, payment accrual codes, programs and services, special cost codes, special studies, table viewer, and general reports. And then, of course, we'll have our closing announcements. To start out with, we'll get into the housekeeping. Attendees have been muted. So if you wish to speak, please raise your hand using the reaction emoji at the bottom of your screen, and you'll be unmuted by one of our panelists. Questions can also be submitted using our chat feature, which will be monitored by one of our SSIS business ops staff. Closed captioning can be enabled using the CC button located at the bottom left of your screen. And this session is being recorded and will be posted on the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy website in 7 to 10 business days. Here is the Tennyson warning. Go ahead and read this over real quick, and then we'll get started after I give you a moment or two to read it over. Hopefully that was long enough for everybody to read over the Tennyson warning. Heidi Morris is off today, so I will present the Mentor of the Month. So drum roll, please. Our Mentor of the Month is Mower County's Doris Hoy. Doris was nominated by her colleague, Lisa Borison. Per Lisa, Doris is a fabulous mentor. She has extensive knowledge of SSIS, and have put countless hours into helping staff with any and all SSIS issues and concerns. She does so without complaint and is quick to offer to take a look and find a way to resolve the issue. Our agency is extremely fortunate to have Doris. So congratulations to Doris, and thank you for Lisa for the nomination. Next, we're going to go off agenda just a second, and Cynthia has an update that she wants to share. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Thanks, Ross. Here we go. There we go. Good morning, everybody. Just really glad to be here this morning, and just want to share. I know folks are aware about our SSIS Child Protection Review, and we have completed it and are getting ready for our final feedback report out, which is going to happen on Friday, May 3rd. And so just want to make sure that folks have access to that. I'll be putting a link in the chat. And make sure to also share this with folks at your agency, child protection staff, and others that may be interested in the work that we did for this review, as well as kind of the next steps going forward. So again, please, if you have time, consider attending that, and please share it with others at your agency and other folks that you know may be interested. So, and if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out either to me or to the help desk. So that's all. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Cynthia. We'll get started with the presentation, and I believe Andrea is the next one up.
Good morning and welcome. In today's Coffee Talk, we are going to explore SSIS administration by looking at tools and reports. Most tools used in SSIS admin are managed at the agency level, but some tools are managed at the state level. In SSIS, county preferences are used to set up an agency's day-to-day system functions. Some preferences must be entered into SSIS before it can be used. It must be kept up to date as agency information and processes change. There are 7 tabs in SSIS that can be completely customized to county preferences. General preferences, retention period, chart of accounts or COA, yearly settings, agreement language, Title 4E, and county claim control. The first tab under county preferences is the general preference tab. Information to be updated under the general preference tab includes, but is not limited to, time reporting schedules, agency and director contact information, purge schedules, default intake unit, accounting system batch owners, and EPS email notifications. The first section on the General tab is Time Reporting Period. If something changes and you want to have weekly reporting periods instead of bi-weekly reporting periods, you can change it here. The period starting on field is the date that your agency started using time reporting in SSIS. Hours per day is the number of hours for a typical workday. This section lists your agency director. If it changes at any time, you can change the information here. For purge, you can select the day of the month that you would like your purge to run. You must choose a specific day of the month. Our recommendation here is that you choose a day of the month from 1 to 28. This field ties into the destruction list that we will discuss later. As noted on the slide, if the purge process day is set to 0, as in the screenshot above, your purge process will not run. Time log. If you need to see more or less than 6 months of time record on your time activity log, The SSIS admin at your agency can increase the number of months to display. The default intake unit field indicates which unit your agency chooses to use as the default for workers who create intakes. If workers' intake unit is selected, the assigned unit of the intake defaults to the unit selected on the user profile. The specific intake unit sets the assignment unit of the intake to the unit selected from the drop-down here. Default intake access restriction. This indicates what access restriction your agency uses as the default for users who create intakes. If you choose workers intake access restriction, the restriction is set as indicated on the user profile under the worker intake scope. If you choose units workgroup access restriction, this will be the same restriction as indicated on the worker's assigned unit in their user profile setup. If you choose specific access restriction, this restriction will match the selected choice that you select from the dropdown.
This screen right here is just a reminder from our previous coffee talk on SSIS Admin 1 and relates to the information that Andrea just covered regarding the default intake unit as well as the default intake access restriction. And this is just a reminder that if the intake worker scope is department or unit and no intake unit is selected, intakes will default to the SSIS default scope selected on that county preferences screen, again, that Andrea alluded to.
BizOrg service required. Your agency may require services entered for each BizOrg prior to selecting them in a service arrangement or a payment. If the BizOrg service is required, each BizOrg or vendor who will be paid must have the services they provide entered under the BizOrg services offered folder. Only the services entered for a vendor will display on a service arrangement or a payment. This will help workers select the correct services on the service arrangements or payments and reduce the margin for error. If not required is selected, a valid service display for the program selected on the service arrangement or payment. The screenshot on the lower right of the screen demonstrates where services are entered under the Biz organization. The General tab also has the option for County Accounting System Batch Owners Required. This option sets the requirement for a specific user to access and monitor the payment batch process on the agency's accounting system side of the interface. Requiring a County Accounting System Batch Owner is optional. If you are an IFC agency, you must choose to use this. You may choose to use this. Requiring batch owners depends on how your accounting system is set up and is a decision that needs to be made within your agency.
And that's IFS instead of IFC, IFS County. We're going to pause our discussion regarding preferences to dig a little deeper into the County Accounting System Batch Owner. Each agency has an accounting system to produce warrants to vendors for purchased services. And for many counties, this is IFS. For other agencies, they may have their own accounting systems that interface with SSIS. To process payment batches for IFS agencies, the person who will process batches in IFS must be set up as a County Accounting System Batch Owner in SSIS. The County Accounting System user ID also must match exactly how it is entered in IFS. If you are a non-IFS county, you may or may not choose to use this screen. The final spot on the General Preferences tab is this EPS email notifications. A county administered automated email or text notification can be sent when an adult maltreatment report received in the agency's SSIS unassigned intake log includes notification from the Minnesota Adult Abuse Reporting Center, otherwise known as MARC, of a need for assessment of emergency adult protective services, also known as EPS. This enhancement was to support county and tribal administration of adult protective services in their after-hours responsibility for immediate or within 24 hours of receipt of the report duty to assess to safeguard the adult vulnerable to maltreatment. In addition to being able to enter information into this field, the Manage EPS Notifications function should be assigned to the APS worker or the worker who will be responsible for managing the after-hours email notifications in SSIS admin, and the user must also have administer system. Step-by-step instructions can be found in the Adult Protection SSIS user guide linked to the top right of this slide on how to set up those after-hours email or text notifications. And also included on this slide is how to set up those text messages. And there is a guide on how to do that. And again, that's linked on this slide. And just kind of a reminder that SSIS Help Desk does not generally support the text messaging if it's not working properly.
Retention. Your agency can make changes to retention period if the retention period is enabled when you click on the record. The retention period tab displays how long the system retains records. Records are deleted from SSIS through the purge process. Your agency defines when the purge process runs. Again, we recommend consulting with the county attorneys and or your fellow agencies' policies regarding changing retention period. This tab displays the structure of your agency's chart of accounts or COA, used for service arrangements and payments. The COA structure tab displays an agency's COA elements and is read-only. An agency's COA codes have up to 11 elements. The element length is the number of characters for that element. The element position provides the position where the element displays in the COA code. Chart of account codes are maintained in both your accounting system and SSIS. You will need to reconcile these periodically. This will ensure that you have not inactivated a code in one system and not the other. You cannot delete a COA code if it has been used for a service arrangement or a payment. Maintaining your COA codes is completed in SSIS Fiscal rather than SSIS Admin. The yearly setting tab must be completed before workers can create service arrangements, payment, or chart of account maximums. You can only create one yearly setting record for each year. When you're creating next year's settings, the default will be the previous year's settings. All fields are editable except significant birth rate change. They're editable until a service arrangement, payment, or COA records is created for the year. If you find changes are needed to the yearly settings after a service arrangement, payment, or COA record is created for the year, you will need to contact SSIS Help Desk for assistance.
Let's provide a demonstration of how to set up new yearly settings in SSIS. We can navigate to the bottom portion of the grid and we can highlight the last entry of our yearly settings, and we can select right click and then new yearly settings, or we could do this from the action menu as well. Notice how the fiscal year advances to the next year, which will be 2025. And then when we navigate over to the next field, this is our general ledger close date. This is the date the agency closes the general ledger for the previous year. This field is editable even after records are entered. So if you find out that the general ledger close date is something else, you can change it later. We're going to enter 2026 here. The next field we are going to talk about is the unit and amount increase of tolerance, the percentage of change that a service arrangement may change without the need to reapprove. Right now, this field is set at 12%. As service arrangement amendments are entered, the system determines if the change exceeds the percent of the original values of the service arrangement and either allows the change or if it requires approval. And that right now, again, is set at 12% in our test environment. Then we have the significant birthday rate change. All agencies default to the first of the month. For services 180 or 181, service arrangements pull in the basic per diem based on the child's age and placement classification. If a child has a significant birth date during the date spans of the service arrangement, a new service arrangement must be created with the new basic per diem effective the first day of the month the significant birthday falls in. Next, we're going to navigate down to our COA maximum options, which is that chart of account maximum. Chart of account maximums provide the ability to define, maintain, and track expenditures, as well as encumber funds for a single chart of account code or group of chart of account codes. This field encumbers service arrangements. If your agency is going to encumber service arrangements, you can select yes here. If not, you can select no. Then we have the required chart of account maximums section here. All chart of account codes must have a maximum set if yes is selected here. If no is selected, you can still enter chart of account maximums on individual chart of account codes. And then we have the exceed chart of account maximums down here. This alerts so you don't exceed maximums. Choose between errors or warnings on this one. You can choose if it's a warning or an error by selecting one of these two indicators here. If you choose to receive an error, if the maximum is exceeded, you cannot save records. Workers cannot continue to save service arrangements if they receive this error. And if you set this option to receive warnings, you can still save the records and continue on, but there should be a process to let someone know at your agency that the chart of account maximum has been exceeded. And then we would just go ahead and save once we have verified all of this information is correct.
If an agency uses service agreements, SSIS provides agreement language template in county preferences. The information serves as the legal language for a contract between an agency, a vendor, and a client. If your agency chooses to use their own legal language on service agreements, you can copy an existing language block for different services or vendors. There's no limits here. You can have different language blocks for different services or different vendors. You can select which one you would like to default on your service agreements. Each record entered displays in the dropdown for service agreement. This tab displays current and historical Title IV-E foster care management agreements under umbrellas. The Title IV-E foster care placement, care and supervision agreement, also known as the FC agreement or the Title IV-E management agreement, is a contract between local social service agencies and local juvenile corrections and/or tribal agencies. The agreement establishes how local juvenile correction agencies or tribal agencies will carry out the responsibility for the placement, care, and supervision of a child when the local social service agency is not the agency administrating the Title IV-E plan. If your social service and your corrections are under one administration, you would then enter an umbrella county record, not an FC agreement with corrections. The County Claim Control tab defines needs for healthcare claiming. Agencies must have a record on this tab to submit claims to MMIS. The fields should not be changed without consulting SSIS first. If you have records here, you already cannot add additional records. An error will display saying a county claim record already exists if you do try. Information included includes MMIS provider number, federal tax ID, NPI, National Provider Number, UMPI, Unique Minnesota Provider Number, ISA Control Number, and the claiming county.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Before we move on, I just wanted to check in with our audience and see if there are any questions regarding the county preferences and any of the tabs that we've discussed in relation to county preferences, including general, retention period, COA structure, yearly settings, agreement language, etc. I'm monitoring the chat a little bit here and I'm not seeing any questions come in, so I think we're safe. I'll give it another couple seconds to see if any questions come in. Carrie says, in the most recent tab, I don't see anything listed for claiming county. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Carrie? I'm sorry. All right. Well, we will allow Carrie to respond or elaborate, and I will move on to the second half of the presentation. Welcome, everybody. I forgot to introduce myself when I started talking. My name is Eric Kratt, and I'm with the SSIS user support team. I supervise the Tier 1 Help Desk and the Learning and Development team. And we're bringing forward some exciting stuff for you regarding some of the background of SSIS, all things SSIS administration. And Andrea, one of our data integrity SMEs, covered the first set of slides here to go over county preferences. So I appreciate her support on this. The next thing we're going to talk to you about is the destruction list. And this kind of falls in line with one of the slides that Andrea covered. The destruction list is used in conjunction with purge. This list is a tool for agencies to research what records are set to purge and be able to destroy paper files associated to work groups and cases. The first things we see at the top of this are next scheduled purge date. And again, as a reminder, if that 0 is selected on county preferences, the day will not be set, and it will otherwise default to the day of the month that is set on county preferences. So in this particular slide, we see that the 21st is when this agency has chosen to run their purge process. There's also work groups, time records, unattached from a work group, and persons, unattached persons from an intake or work group. Those are all selections on this top. It's going to give you the numbers of, and I have a menu, I have something in the way that I can't really see this slide, so I apologize. But basically it says how many work groups are set to purge, how many time records are set to purge, and how many person related documents are set to purge. Yes.
Yep. There's just a couple, Carrie did, before we get too far on this one, Carrie
Okay.
did ask about the previous slide. And she was
Okay.
wondering, she's specifically asking about the under county claim control tab and wondering if something should be entered there.
Under county claim control tab. Claiming
And she was asking
county.
about the claiming county.
Eric,
That
this is
the
Sam.
last header.
Yeah.
Eric, this is Sam.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I put the answer in the chat. It's only
Oh.
those agencies that have multiple counties. So like Southwest would have multiple counties that are each going to have their own record there with a claiming county.
Okay.
If you work for only one county, you're not going to have anything that shows up in that field. But I put that in the chat also.
Okay.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
And then one other question from Terry. I'm wondering if on the purge, has there been any more talk on how to get old cases that have had bills paid to purge that should have been purged several years ago? And my understanding, Terry, is we are still working on that. I don't know if anybody has a better answer for that. Pam?
Yeah, my understanding was it is the same. So that Terry will come with fiscal purge, which has yet to be implemented. So we can't purge items that have anything to do with fiscal until fiscal purge has been built into purge. So yes, that has been discussed. It does get brought up, but at this time, those won't purge.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep. And once again, where I was as I was talking about these top fields here, they're grayed out and they're not able to be edited. And then we covered in the county preference slides that you can go into those retention periods and adjust them if necessary. And we just want to make sure that you're, following agency policy, you're talking to your county attorneys before adjusting those times. I'm going to play a pre-recorded video to show you some of the functionality of the destruction list. And it does kind of cover that physical information that was asked by Terry as well. Let's navigate to the destruction list in SSIS administration by going to Tools and Destruction List. There are two ways to display information here: range or by a single work group down here. If range is selected, the from and to dates are based on the day set in county preferences. For example, this shows that our purge date is the 21st of the month, so this month is April, therefore it's April 21st, 2024. And the from date defaults to 1/1/1899, back when SSIS was first developed. You can change these dates as needed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to enter 1/1/2015 just as a date. The program area defaults to all, but you can select a specific program area from the dropdown if you only want to view certain program areas. Next, we have the worker section. This is same with the worker. It defaults to all, and you can select a specific worker from the dropdown if needed. You can choose to include intake work groups in the list if you check the box up here. And you can choose to include placement or open workgroup column in the grid. When we refresh the list, we're going to check the box to include intake workgroups. Once you have all of the information filled in, you can select refresh list option to update records shown in the grid. That refresh list button is here. And an advanced grid appears down here. I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to right click on any one of my column headers and select best fit all columns so that I can read what's actually in my columns. I'm going to navigate over here to the field chooser. If there's anything that you want added to your grid, you can select this field chooser and select the unchecked boxes to add them to your grid if you'd like. I can select case, track if I wanted to, so on and so forth. One thing to note is the destruction date column here. If there ever comes a time where you see that this field is blank, that is an indication that this item will not be set to purge. You have the option to print this report if you'd like, either from the grid action menu or from any of the other action menus. So if I navigate down here to action and I select print, I can do that and it'll give me a printed copy. You can use this list to distribute to supervisors, other lead social workers, case aides, and others to review before these records are purged. You can play with the print settings to get the information to display nicely up here as well. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of our print preview here. One thing to note is that there will be items on this list that will not purge even though they have a destruction date. One example is work groups with payments, service arrangements, and healthcare claims in the fiscal details folder. There is no purge yet for fiscal items, so these work groups will not purge. Another thing to note is that there may be exceptions to the recommended retention period and when to purge information depending on the type of the work group, program, and details of the case. If you find that the record should not be purged yet, you can change the destruction date. Well, for some cases, with some of our adult protection related cases, there is not an option to change the destruction date. To demonstrate how to change the purge date, I can simply highlight or control and highlight as many records as I need to. Navigate down to the increase destruction date of selected records. I can do this by days or by years. So for example, if I click here, I can increase this retention period by 3 years. I can also navigate down here to the to date and enter an applicable date to save it until. Notice that the apply changes here once I select to increase the time before we destroy this record is embolded. I can then apply the changes by selecting apply changes. If this apply changes button is grayed out, that means that I am not able to change the destruction date of the selected records. From this screen, you also have the ability to view or print records already purged from the destruction list by navigating to the action menu and selecting View Purge Log. You can filter items in this list so you can only see the most recent. The purge log is also an enhanced grid, so you can customize the report as needed. All history remains in this list forever. Purged items are next to impossible to recover and can only be done through data fixes in very rare instances with immediate notification and no promises. I cannot generate a purge log in our test environment, but I just wanted to show you how to navigate to the action menu and pull that up. So once again, apologize about the fiscal purge stuff. We're going to move on to our next slide, and our next slide has to do with healthcare revenue account codes. Healthcare revenue account codes help determine where to allocate revenue for claims paid by MMIS. Once set up, revenue account codes link to a client through the client's supplemental eligibility folder, and the revenue account code description, start date, and end date fields are defined by each agency. Use of the healthcare revenue account code is optional. Next, we have a busy slide regarding the payment accrual codes. Accrual codes tell the county accounting system to report expenses when incurred, even if the agency disperses the money at a later time. Agencies use accrual codes from January 1st to the general ledger close date based on the payment's service dates. We looked at the general ledger close date on the yearly settings tab when we were under county preferences, and accrual codes must match the accrual codes created in the county accounting system as well. You will receive an error on a payment interface if the accrual codes are not valid in the accounting system. Once you have the accrual code set up, you can select it on a payment request. At the end of the year, it may be helpful to run an advanced payment search and add the accrual code optional column in the grid to all of the payments to accrue for that period. So again, this busy slide right here shows the payment accrual code screen in SSIS administration where they're set up. This screenshot here to the bottom left shows the accrual code field on a payment request. And then when you conduct an advanced payment search and run a report on various payment requests, you can add, when you go to this column field chooser option over here to the far left, and that drop down appears, you can add it by simply placing a check mark next to accrual code description. Lots of fiscal stuff today. The next tab we're going to talk about is the programs and services. The state of Minnesota requires that all agencies produce reports of services provided, both staff time and purchased services, using the budgeting, reporting, and accounting for social services, otherwise known as BRASS service codes, and state-defined sub-programs. Programs and services provides a standard method of recording this information. These reports are used to determine funding, track trends, and report to the legislature. In addition, agencies require the ability to define BRASS sub-services for internal reporting. Programs and services in SSIS admin provides a standard method of recording this information in every agency and gives you the ability to customize the settings of the associated services and activities to the BRASS program areas and sub-program areas. SSIS maintains standard BRASS. SSIS sets a default for all services based on DHS policy, whether the service can be provided or vendor provided. If the staff provided option is yes, the service displays in the dropdown for service arrangements and payments. And agencies may be able to edit and change this information for their agency needs if the county may override is set to yes. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a video that's coming up. On this slide, you can see the bulletin that applies to the BRASS services for the calendar years 2024 through 2025. And you can also see a link that we're going to reference a little later that's going to bring you to a page that is distributed on PartnerLink by the Financial Operations Division here at the Department of Human Services, and provides those yearly rates for a variety of services including targeted case management. Let's explore a little bit more in detail about programs and services in SSIS administration. We're going to navigate to Tools in the Windows menu toolbar and navigate down to Programs and Services. And this is going to open up the Programs and Services window. At the top here, we have the BRASS program areas, and you can see that SSIS has 6 BRASS program areas. From top to bottom, they are Children's Services, Child Care, Chemical Dependency, Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Adult Services. Under the Programs tab, or the brass program areas tab, I'm going to hit the plus button next to children's services, and we are going to see two folders appear. We're going to see a programs folder and a services folder. These programs and services are associated to children's services. When I navigate to the programs folder and expand it, we'll see 11 different program areas that are affiliated with children's services. If I click on the folder next, or the plus sign next to the Child Welfare General, we can see another folder appear for associated services. If I click on Child Welfare, what we're going to see over here is another grid display. The grid is now showing all of the brass service areas that are affiliated with the program of child welfare in SSIS. We can also drill into the associated services folder underneath child welfare to get a little bit more information. So when I click on that, it's going to show all of the different services that are affiliated with child welfare. And when I select one of the program areas, when I select one of the service areas, we're going to see the affiliated activities with that service. So we really can drill down and get the details associated with each one of these program areas, the affiliated services, and then the activities that are affiliated with the services. These are going to appear in SSIS when you fill out your activity log or a time activity report that's related to a work group. And one final way to look at all of the program areas associated with children's services as well as their associated services, you can simply just click on the programs folder itself. The top field will show you the program area, the bottom area will show you the associated services with this particular program, and will change as you click through the grid. Let's talk a little bit more about the services folder here. When I click on the services folder, notice that there's a grid above as well as 7 different tabs in the display that offer up information about this specific service. I'm not going to go into great detail about each one of these individual fields, but we will talk a little bit about each one of these tabs. So we have the summary section here, and that's just a summary of the current information, and it's not editable. So we have service 101, the service start date, the description, a SIGR unit type if applicable, and then we have effective settings for staff provided, vendor provided, and county subservice required. If we want to change any of this information at the bottom portion of the screen, we're going to navigate over to the county settings. If we navigate to county settings and it's blank, then we can create a new county setting by navigating to the action menu and selecting new county settings. It's grayed out right now because one is already created. If you click into this field, you can change the staff provided, vendor provided, or county subservice required at any time to either yes or no. We're going to leave it alone for now. Next, we're going to navigate over to the service details. The service details displays a grid of all versioned information about this service, and it's not editable. The next tab over is the associated programs tab, and this displays all of the programs that the service is associated to and is not editable. The county subservices tab displays a grid of all of the county subservices that have been defined for the service. This is where you can enter additional subservices for your agency reporting. We also have work group types. Work group types displays the work group types that the service can be selected on related to a contact activity record, and this is not editable along with the associated start and end dates. The last tab we have here is the HCPCS and modifiers tab. If there were any HCPCS related to claiming associated with this service and program area, it will display the HCPCS and modifiers that are valid for this service. This was probably a bad choice for this demo. but you would see the HIC picks and modifiers listed here if there were any for information and referral. As we look off to the left-hand side of the tree view, we notice that the top area really breaks it down and groups everything together under brass program area, the associated services to each one of these program areas and the associated activities. SSIS also has a list of all of the programs as well as all of the service areas, and those are under these next two tabs. Next folder down, we have the activities folder, and this is going to provide all of the activities associated for contact activity records or your activity log if you are a time reporting agency. There's some additional admin activities and payroll activities that are listed here in the background that you can choose from when filling out those time records at the agency. The last folder we're going to touch on here under Programs and Services Administration is the HIC picks and modifiers. HIC picks and modifiers are codes used to submit claims to MMIS for payment. HICPIC stands for Healthcare Common Procedure Coding System. We just call it HICPICS for short around SSIS. For this example, I've highlighted HICPIC and modifier T2023U3 for CWTCM face-to-face. And as you can see, the screen is highlighted or broken up into three different areas. We have the grid view up here at the top. We have the display here that provides several fields of information, including the HICPICS and modifier, the description, the unit type, the start date and end date if applicable. We have the claim category, which is CWTCM, and we touched on those claim categories in our first webinar in March. And then, do we want to include time for this particular claimable service? We can say yes. Do we want to include it for payments? We want to say no. And then we have some policy and sort of business rules listed under billing information here. Client must be less than 21 years of age as of the first of the month, and client cannot be receiving CWTCM in the same calendar month as RSCTCM. And then the third portion of the screen really goes over a couple of different tabs, starting with claimable services. These are the services, if entered on a contact activity record in SSIS, could trigger a claim for this provided targeted case management. So these are all of the associated service codes and descriptions and their associated start dates. The staff provided rates tab lists the rate to be used when submitting a claim for a service. Right now in SSIS, we have it listed as $100 a month in our test environment with a rate start date of March 1st, 2008. And as we all know, we need to be updating these rates each year. And we're going to show you how to do that here briefly. So the first rule of thumb is never to overwrite an existing record unless it is incorrect. Rates entered with no rate end date indicate the rate remains active, and you must enter a rate end date before a new rate can be entered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this rate here and I'm going to double click. And as you can see over here in the tree view, we see that we can see all of the HICPICS and modifiers over here, and the one that we're working on right now is listed and open. So we're going to put a rate end date in this field, and we're just going to say 12/31/23, and then we'll hit save. Listed on your slide in the PowerPoint presentation, we do have some claimable rate information. I have that pulled up here. So each year as DHS releases targeted case management group rates. And I'm just going to use the Aitken example here of $354 for CWTCM. And we're going to create that new rate. So I'm going to go to the action menu and I'm going to select new staff provided rate. And I believe that said $354. Yes, $354. And that rate start date is going to be January 1st of 24. Now, in the real world, I believe we're updating these in July. This is just an example of showing how to enter a new rate in SSIS for this particular claimable service. I'm going to save that with no rate end date. And then when this changes again next year, we'll come in and update that information. Any questions about updating any of this information? You can feel free to reach out to your mentor and have your mentor reach out to the help desk. All right, and later on in the presentation, we'll kind of go over how to look at BRASS programs and services and activities a little differently through the use of our general reports. But if you wanted to drill into the details of BRASS programs and services, you can also do that under the programs and services in SSIS administration. Next, we're going to talk about special cost codes. Special cost codes are used to identify special costs related to a BRASS service. Each special cost code has state reporting impact. Special cost codes added by the state help identify payments made for specific reasons and reporting purposes. Agencies can use special cost codes to help identify payments made for specific purposes as well, or maybe tracking a grant or for other identified uses. Agency defined codes can be deleted if they were created and never used. Once a code is used, the delete option will be grayed out and unavailable on this screen. And you can run an advanced payment search for payments using the special cost code to see which codes have been used, or if you are unsure a particular code has been used. And there is a link on this slide to our state approved special cost codes and a description of each one of them, their uses. And I've linked that on the bottom of the slide right here. And then we're just going to briefly talk about special studies. Special studies was developed in SSIS way back in the day to track groups of clients, work group and staff information, and allows the agency, the state or federal government, to track new service methodologies. For example, way back in the day in 2015 or 2014, and prior to that, an experimental group was set up to track the uses of the MAPC during its testing phase. A state or federal level study is initiated by state staff and tracked in SSIS as a pilot or statewide study. And SSIS distributes the study information to the agencies involved. The local agency is responsible for associating specific people, staff, or work groups with the study. And a local agency can also initiate a study in SSIS where the state is not involved, and local agencies will set that special study up and maintain local agency defined special studies in SSIS admin. So you would go to the tools menu and select special studies to set up the parameters of those special studies. I would imagine that we use Tableau for a lot of those purposes right now, but there is an ability to set some studies up in SSIS as well. And then last but certainly not least, we're going to talk a little bit about Table Viewer. Currently, Table Viewer is available to all users that have access to SSIS administration. Mentors may or may not access table viewer on a regular basis or know of its use, but we want to make sure that mentors have a little more background information about table viewers. So we've provided just a brief general overview of some of that functionality. We're going to talk a little bit about table viewer in SSIS administration. To get to the table viewer search, we're going to navigate to tools and then table viewer search. When this window populates, we're going to see up at the top that we have table name. You can select a table with the drop down, but as you can see, there are quite a few tables to choose from in SSIS. So if you want to just type a table into this field, you want to make sure that this alphanumeric code toggle shows the letter A on the right side or the bottom. And then you can use the type ahead feature to find different tables that you're looking for. Another thing is that date range. You have a lot of date ranges to choose from, and you can even customize that date range. And if you want to just override the date range, you can select all records, and this will override your max results that are set in SSIS admin as well, to provide you all of the records for this particular table. For this example, one of the most frequent calls that we get is to see who changed a time record. So coming up here, I'm going to use that type ahead again, and I'm just going to say time record, and it's going to come up with that table. And instead of choosing a date range to look in, I'm just going to select all records available. For this particular example, you may wish to choose a date range at your agency, and I'm going to select search. I'm going to do a little housekeeping since my grid populated, and I'm going to, because this is an advanced grid, I'm going to right click on a column and I'm going to choose best fit all columns so that I can read what's in my column headers here. Also note under the table that you have that splitter bar option that you can lower or raise, and you also have a scroll bar here to go across all of the headers in your table. In order to be able to search this grid, you're probably going to want to have a little bit more information from your worker, or even check it out yourself so you can find the correct time record in question. So you would have to scroll through all of your results here to find that particular record. Now, as you can see, we have the time record ID, the staff ID that created it, and the work group ID. I won't go through all of the details of all of these headers here, but if we navigate to the far right, we can look at who this was last changed by. And if the number is the same as the record that, or the number that created it, that's a clear indication that it was the same person. But if the numbers differ, then you can look up the staff ID. And that's also a table that we'll look at here in just a second. But this particular time record looks like it was last changed by this particular staff person. And then the date that it was changed displays over here to the right as well. So if I want to look up the staff ID of 202140505, I can navigate up to my table name, and I can type in staff to get that staff table, and search. Once my results populate, I can navigate down the grid until I get to the 202140505, and what do you know? It was me. So this will give you the information you need to see who a time record was last changed by. I busted myself. All right. Have there been any questions since we last checked in?
Nope, you're good.
All right. One of the final things I wanted to run run across everybody's attention is that there are specific reports set up in SSIS administration for general reports, and there are 10 reports available. There's a link on this slide that will guide you to the worker documentation pages, SSIS admin general reports information. There's 6 reports that fall under programs and services and 4 under security reports. And a brief description, preview, and how to access each of these reports is available, as I indicated, under that worker documentation page on the SSIS resource page. Also important to note is that the reports listed here in admin are also available from the worker and physical application. So you don't need to have admin rights to run these reports. There are 2 different types of reports that display for SSIS administration related reports. They're the banded or customized grid reports. The icon that looks like a piece of paper, it's a black piece of paper with the right corner folded, is a banded report. Banded reports display in a fixed format, and you cannot change the layout or structure of this type of report. And banded reports can be printed and exported. Customize grids report means that you can customize the look and feel of the report if need be. And we'll go over each one of those reports in minor detail here. Today, we're just going to do a broad level overview of some of the reports that you'll find in SSIS Administration General Reports. To navigate to General Reports in SSIS Administration, you're going to go to the Tools menu, and you're going to select General Reports. The first report we see under Programs and Services is the HCPCS and Modifiers and Claimable Services. This first report shows HCPCS and modifiers by claim category and their associated claimable services and activities. These are set based on whether the service is time related or payment related and vendor provided versus staff provided. As you can see, the general report always will include a setup tab for you to call on certain information to be included in your report. And then once you select the information that you want to call on and bring into your report, you can select the search icon and your report will be available under the preview. Next, we'll look at program and service associations by program. This next report lists all of the state-defined services for each program area. As you can see, you can only select one program area at a time, include active or all, inactive and active, and then include HCPCS and modifiers as well. Again, functionality is the same. You can search and it will pull up your report under the Preview tab. You can use this report to review BRASS service and activities available along with start and end dates for each association, and you can see where HCPCS and modifiers associated to services display on this list. The next report is Service by BRASS Program Area, No Subservice. This report lists the valid services for a BRASS program area and includes service start and service end dates, who the service is provided by, is it staff or vendor, and whether a subservice is required for the service. County subservice codes are not included in this report. The next report we see is the Service by BRASS Program Area with Subservice. This report is the same as the last report, but does include subservices. We urge agencies to use this report to review BRASS service codes available for each BRASS program area, designations of staff and or vendor provided, as well as specific county or agency subservice codes associated to each service. The next report we see are the staff provided rates. The staff provided rates report is a grid report, meaning that you can customize the look and feel of the report. This report lists the staff provided rates entered in SSIS administration for HIC picks and modifiers, and only includes HIC picks and modifiers that have a rate entered. We encourage agencies to review this report to ensure that your agency has current rates entered, so you are reimbursed by MMIS accurately. Some examples of staff provided rates that are required annually are the TCM rates you receive, like we discussed earlier in this presentation. Next, we navigate under the Security Reports folder, and the first report we see is a customizable report called the Security Functions Report. This grid report lists all workers assigned to a function. Users may select a specific security function, such as create payment requests, and the report displays all the workers with that security function in their role and all the role that include that function. We encourage agencies to use this report to review users assigned to each function of SSIS, as well as which roles have each function. SSIS recommends periodically reviewing these functions for any needed additions or changes. The staff detail report is the next one. It prints all of the user information entered, you can run this report by department, unit, worker, or all. We encourage agencies to use this report to list each staff person and all their details. Review these details on a regular basis to determine staff have the appropriate levels of security at your agency. The next one is the staff qualifications report. This report includes all the staff qualifications entered for the worker. The report includes both types of qualifications, child safety and permanency professional, as well as healthcare claiming. We encourage agencies to use this report to verify that workers have the qualifications entered correctly, and reviewing this report on a regular basis assists in reducing errors when claiming and ensures that policy requirements for workers' credentials are being met. And then finally, we have the worker role function report, which lists workers and roles with the functions assigned to that role, including workers with none as the role assigned. You can select a specific role or leave it blank so all results will display. We encourage agencies to use this report to review staff and roles assigned to each worker. Workers who have left the agency should have a role of none. And that leads us to the wind down of our presentation. Just want to check back with questions.
Yeah, Eric, there's a question in the chat wondering if the training videos are posted on the SSIS partner link to reference.
They are only going to be associated with this coffee talk at the present moment. We don't have a defined or approved place to post these recordings. So right now they're on my own personal drive that I recorded in advance for purposes of this conversation or this coffee talk. But the learning and development team is in constant communication about developing a platform for videos like these to be posted. So there will be more to come on that over time.
And that was the only question so far.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Ross again to sound us off. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thanks, Eric and Andrea. Great work on this presentation. Very good information. We like to always end these sessions with a few things. One is to remind you of where your SSIS resources are. I wanted to, since we have a little bit of time, go a little bit deeper into what's available on PartnerLink and on the SSIS resource page. For the new mentors that may be joining us, there is the SSIS mentor program information that's available from this page. You've got training information, the different training e-learnings that are available, the SSIS worker documentation and the SSIS fiscal documentation links that are under the SSIS training, SSIS support, statewide release information, and then right in the middle there, the VM Horizon and Azure information, how to download, install, and instructions on how to use those. So for the one of you that maybe have not accessed PartnerLink in quite some time, you may notice that it has changed from County Link to now PartnerLink. So next slide, please. As far as any information related to this coffee talk, please reach out to the SSIS help desk at dhs.ssishelp@state.mn.us. And to view previous SSIS Coffee Talk webinar recordings and reference materials, you can visit the Minnesota Child Welfare Academy SSIS training site at the link listed here. Next slide, please. Save the date for May's Coffee Talk. This is actually going to be a statewide release, the 24.2, and you can set the date for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 from 9 to 10:30 as usual, and you can register. The registration link is in the chat. So with all that being said, we'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join us this morning. And we look forward to the next coffee talk. So stay golden, Minnesota. Radio Ross out.